When we talk about domestic abuse, I've probably worked in the field now for coming up to 20 years, which makes me feel ancient. We met Shelley in Aintree Hospital. She was taken in as an emergency by ambulance, and potentially she was going to be a homicide. Her partner was later arrested for attempted murder. When myself and my colleague Heather Bromlow come out to see Shelley, it was really one of the most traumatic things I think both of us has actually been through. We both worked in the field for a long time, but what we kind of come out to see was something that we weren't really expecting. So when you do this kind of work, sometimes sadly you become a little bit hardened towards people's injuries at times, you know, and you're a little bit unshockable at times. But Shelley really shocked us this day. So when we arrived in the hospital, her injuries were really severe. It was a miracle that she was actually still alive, really. For me and Heather meeting Shelley, the both of us kind of took a breath back and went, you know, and I could see that, you know, she was just as shocked as me. But obviously when you're doing this job, you can't show that. You've got to kind of keep that stern approach, because you're that person that's going to help this person. You can't be looking like you don't know what you're doing or you're frightened. But I'll be honest, at that given point, it was quite frightening and it was traumatic. And I don't mind admitting that. Shelley was typical Liverpool-like attitude. Don't want to be a grass, don't want to tell the police, which is another barrier when you're doing work like this. And it's a frustrating thing that, you know, we're constantly battling as DV practitioners to try and get that stigma of why a victim would think they're a grass. It's so hard. Also, this guy that she was with, they had 4 children together, and he was quite a hardened criminal himself. So what we done, I agreed to keep her safe. At this point, the children were actually not going to be returned to Shelley. The social worker was trying to take the children somewhere safe. I spoke to Shelley in some depth and said to her, will you make a statement to the police? You know, will you help, you know, the children? Will you basically keep your kids safe? You know, do follow my guidance so that they can stay with you, which Shelley agreed that she would do. So we got the family into refuge, and this was probably on the top of Christmas as well. So you can imagine a family's reluctant to go into refuge anyway. Top of Christmas, even worse. And then we find out there's a dog as well. And at the time, you know, looking back, there was no refuges that would take dogs. I think this dog was the first dog in refuge, actually, in the refuge by where we work. So she was kind of leading case. She kind of set a precedent to have animals in the refuge. When we come together, we took her to the refuge safely, and I got to meet her 4 beautiful children. And this was another part which stands out for me really in Shelley's story. Her children were so lovely, and there was a young boy. I won't give his name, but he was 12, absolutely lovely. And when I found out how the police actually got, how the ambulance actually got called to save Shelley's life, it really stuck with me. What I basically used to call him as a little hero. So he actually run out past the attack, they all witnessed it, and he went and got help and sought help and called the ambulance with a neighbour. I started working with the young boy, even though we were working with Shelley predominantly, and we kind of sparked up a really good relationship. And he said to me this one day, he was very, very angry. He had a lot of complications. He had autism, lots of different behavioural issues going on. Angry. He was out of school at the time because he was displaying aggression in school. And through talking to him, he said to me, and he was so unhappy because he said, I didn't want to have to be the person that took my dad away from my sisters. You know, and he felt like he shouldn't have called the police because now they couldn't go home and they wasn't going to have Christmas in the house. So I'd done a lot of work with him around these feelings. We got some Christmas presents for the family as well, and tried to make the Christmas as best as we could in the refuge. Well, Shelley contacted me not long ago, funny enough, just to give me a little update on her life. She does this every now and again. And she just said to me, they caught the partner. He went on the run for many years, but he actually got sentenced for attempted murder, and he got 10.5 years in prison. So he's still in prison at the moment. But she's seen that as a positive because she stood up to him and it got her out that relationship. And also she said that our little boy is now nearly 16, and she just kind of wanted to check in with me and say he remembers, and he always talks about, you know, your service, you, and the help that you give us. She was just amazing. So she's doing level 2 now in health and social care, I think she said. So she's potentially going to be looking for a placement. So I would love nothing more for her to come to PSS and do a placement there. That would just be like the icing on the cake for me, really. But yeah, it was just one of those stories I wanted to share with you about how the Ruby Project works as a team as well. And now when we're supporting people, we support each other. And the whole team supported this family. So Tina helped her with the Freedom Programme. Because it was around Christmas, the littlest boy liked dinosaurs. And I always remember Leslie Dixon calling, and Leslie got to meet Shelley, and it said, "Oh, is this dinosaur boy?" Because we'd done a big call out, like a campaign across PSS, and said, anyone who's got dinosaurs, I've got this family, I feel awful, it's on top of Christmas. You know, can anyone donate dinosaurs? We ended up with about 7 sacks of dinosaurs, so he was more than pleased. But it was just to share with you, you know, that you can become desensitised and numb sometimes to these cases, but then you'll have the one that just really sticks in your mind. And that for me, you know, was one of those families that potentially, had we not had any involvement, might have been separated. And you know, it was a really difficult case, but a really lovely outcome.